darkest hour was back in May 2017 when I tried to commit suicide, and that was my last suicide attempt. My family was there to stop me, and it was then that I realized that I really needed to go back to therapy. So I was first diagnosed with depression when I was 5 years old. I'm 32 now, so pretty much my whole life I've had it. And I first learned that I have a thing called depression when I was 13 years old. And I started going in for psychotherapy or counseling sessions. Being depressed also has, I think above everything, it distorted my self-perception, my confidence, which I'm proud to say I've worked on a lot now. I'm a very different person today. It's been a real struggle.
Mental health and depression is something which is very real and is part of our daily lives, and it's something we all suffer from at some point in our lives, or if we have not personally suffered, then we do know someone who has gone through a hard time or who has been either clinically depressed or situationally depressed. Sadly, depression, I don't think, has received the kind of attention and care it deserves to receive. A lot of people who have depression suffer in silence. There's a taboo around, there's a shame around depression, and I don't understand where that comes from. You know, mental health is as essential as physical health.
Depression is a mental illness. It's a mood disorder. It's extreme feelings of sadness, loneliness, a sense of emptiness, anger, a sense of loss, a complete sense of wanting to isolate yourself from the world.
Being accepted by society was a real struggle because of the rejection I faced when I was really young and in my teens. Just this whole challenge of trying to be normal.
A person who's going through depression is in a very dark place, so it's very difficult to comprehend what they're actually going through on the outside, because they are in a completely different world which is detached from reality.
There are different root causes of depression. You know, people talk about a chemical imbalance, and that can happen. But body chemistry can change also due to attitude. If someone has a trauma, if they're in shock, their body chemistry changes. We could say that that's a chemical imbalance. If I make you laugh, and you laugh really, really hard, your chemicals will change their balance. So depression can be hereditary. Often you'll find that it's just in somebody's DNA. Other people in the family have had depression, and they really have a lot to overcome. Sometimes it's situational. Sometimes something doesn't go right in a relationship, at work, in the world. Sometimes it all happens at once. And it's just too much pressure for that person to rise above that, especially if they're isolated.
The impact of depression on people's lives is huge. It's enormous. It's not just destructive for the person who's going through depression, but also for the people around them, because it's very difficult for them to understand what that individual is actually going through. It is an extreme sense of sadness, a loss of sense of self when you are existing in a parallel universe. In a way, it's anger towards yourself also. Depression is a form of cold rage because it's targeted inward. It's in a way you're harming yourself. It's a form of self-harm.
Socially, I was a misfit. I was bullied in school every day of my life, almost. And at home also, I was extremely withdrawn. I thought that was the best way I could deal with depression, is to hide from the world.
To equate depression with suicide, to equate depression with not being able to handle success, to equate depression with something that is seen upon or preyed upon as weaknesses in people, to my mind, is the most distressing and reprehensible thing humanity can do.
I judged myself a lot for being depressed, and have this misconception that they judge me for the same.
Recently, Bollywood actor Sushant Singh's death has really fueled the debate of depression, definitely in the Bollywood film industry and in India. Everybody aspires to be successful and famous, but fame and fortune and success doesn't bring us happiness. We have seen how big stars or celebrities like Alexander McQueen, Anthony Bourdain, Kate Spade, Robin Williams, stars who had it all, and yet they were deeply unhappy and sadly cut their lives short.
When people like Robin Williams passed away, Anthony Bourdain, whoever, it was not tragic for humanity alone, but more tragic for their families. We've got to realize that these people must be grappling with the kind of demons that you and I can't imagine. But often enough, whether it's us as individuals or the media, we brush it off as saying, oh, so-and-so took his or her life. And we try to reason why. We don't ever understand that behind all the ways that Robin Williams made us laugh, and laugh in such delightful ways, in a myriad ways, what kind of grieving must he have personally been going through? We fail to acknowledge it. So the first thing that we need to recalibrate ourselves for is become human beings with empathy, not human beings passing judgment. That, to my mind, is the most important thing. Success isn't easy. Success makes you want to live up to expectations that at times are unrealistic.
My advice to anyone who's in the music industry or in the arts who's going through a mentally challenging time immediately is that you have to ask yourself, why are you doing what you're doing? And if you're honest with yourself, and you have to be radically honest with yourself, if the reason is that, this is what you love doing, then just continue doing what you love. But if the answer is that, that there is some, insecurity inside, that you're trying to become an artist because, you want fame and, you want to hear applause from people, that's a difficult road, because people's opinions, one day they may applaud you, the other day they may jeer you, ridicule you. And so, artists normally have they have a thin skin and they're emotional to begin with. If you're going out there to please people for success or fame, that's a dangerous road. So my advice is, do what you love and love what you do. Because regardless of whether one person listens to your work or a million people listen, if you're trying to get your inner, voice out, you'll feel good about it, regardless of what anybody else likes it or not. And that's the road I would ask you to go.
A person comes to me like that, and they keep trying to be successful, and their image is based on that success. So they don't know who they really are, as who they are inside. They don't value themselves other than how they present to the world. That's a very difficult thing, because that shell that we use to present to the world doesn't always last.
Every film industry, whether it is Hollywood, whether it is British cinema, Indian cinema, within that the Hindi film industry, which is the world's largest, every industry is prone to success and failure. The cost of failure is miserably high. So is the cost of success. And in a country of 1.3 billion people, where you almost have on a daily basis, hundreds of thousands of people who are Bollywood or film aspirants who want to make a mark, you're bound to feel cheated, dejected, rejected, left out. It's bound to have an impact. But then to say that nepotism is all that exists within the Hindi film industry is equally incorrect. We have seen a litany of stars, from the Shah Rukh Khans of the world to the Amitabh Bachchans to Prithviraj Kapoor himself, the Doyen of the Kapoor clan. They were all outsiders. They had no family, no lineage, no pedigree. We've also seen some of the most amazing families, some of the most pedigreed families, some of the most storied families whose wards, whose children haven't made it. So it's unfair to imagine that any creative industry can live and thrive on nepotism. Creative industries live and thrive on only two things: commerce and unbridled talent. I believe Sushant Singh Rajput's most tragic, unfortunate death is not just a wake-up call for mental health and for mental health to be taken seriously by people, but it's also a wake-up call for people in Bollywood. It's a call perhaps which will invoke the desire, will invoke the need for more compassion, for more empathy, for more reasoning, for understanding the contours, the trials, the tribulations which people go through, especially the young.
A person that cares about you would just say one kind word to you and say, you matter. We're not good without you. We need you in this planet. I would feel terrible without you in my world. Sometimes that can change the course of someone's life. And we have to do that for others because they're not strong enough. Usually when someone's at a point where they're in despair, it's a very low energy level. They don't have enough energy to use the tools that we're talking about. They need to be lifted up.
One has to remember that a person who is actually suffering from depression has got a lot of unprocessed emotions and feelings held inside of them. They've probably gone through traumas or difficulties and, as I said, psychological distress probably in their early upbringing. And those things can come out with support, with the right support, talking to the right person, maybe going and talking to a therapist, talking to a friend. But what is not advisable is to sort of tell them that it's going to be okay and they need to just be strong and get on with life, because that is probably one of the worst things that you can say to a person who's depressed.
You are sad with them, and you go, I'm sad too, and I went through this. Like half a step above how they feel, you can pull them up a little, you know? You can't pull them up too much at a time. You have to start out where they are, and little by little, it's like feeding a sick animal. Eventually, they're not sure when you go to feed them. They reach a little bit, but then after a while, they have more and they have more. And next thing you know, they're feeling better and they're eating out of your hand. Now more than ever, kids are just watching media and they're trying to imitate what's on TV. And in fact, they're taking movies of themselves doing terrible things to other people, bullying other people. I mean, I don't know how they survive it. In my day, we had kids that were bullied, and it was terrible. But it wasn't then filmed and put on TV and all over the place, to be humiliated over and over and over forever, because that stuff doesn't go away. What's on the internet is forever.
So social media use has to be curtailed or controlled, because the impact can be quite detrimental for our mental health. They get into that rut, and they get into that sense of wanting to compete and feeling that perhaps their life is not as good as the other person's, whereas actually it is a distorted version of reality. It is not real. What is there in social media is not real. What is going through a depressed person's mind who wants to take this drastic action is not known. What is certain is that they are in immense grief and in an immense dark hole where they're completely detached from reality, and they are actually in a lot of pain. Internally they're actually screaming for help, but they're probably not able to vocalize it.
Recalibrate yourself. You rewire your brain, and you always remember that whatever happens to you happens for a reason. And I've always believed that the glass is almost always half full. Optimism has been my birthmark, and I've bashed on regardless. Because if you give in to what people say, if you give in to what people believe, if you look out for support, you look out for acceptance, you look out for peer approval, you will never be happy. Because people will stab you in the back. That's the nature of the beast. People will be envious of your success. That is again the nature of the beast. And to avoid stress, you've got to look inwards. You've got You've got to believe in things that you always believed in.
Things don't work out all the time in life. You may lose your job, you may lose a relationship, you may become ill. At that time, we have to look within and say, what do I need? Who am I really? And at the very base level, I think what we need to do is know what we're connected with, where life comes from. It's not just me. Life comes from nature. Some people look to their God, the higher power. I think it's very good to be connected that way, because if nothing else, you have that, and that can sometimes save life.
I developed, I think, a thicker skin as I went along. And certainly, when you have, when you have confidence in your own abilities, I've always had that confidence in my own ability, even though I didn't know if I was going to be good enough for whatever was out there. But I always knew that I'd do my best, whatever it is. I totally pour 100% of myself into everything that I do, and that's enough. So if it doesn't do well, so what? You learn from failure. Failure is your best teacher, and I've learned from my failures time and again. But failure doesn't inhibit me. It actually makes me more determined, more focused to do better. And that's why I guess, Paulo Coelho said, when you follow your heart, the entire universe conspires to make you succeed. I've always, done what my heart tells me to do. And it doesn't mean that everything comes easily, but the journey itself is the destination.
I also listen to positive affirmations every day that make me feel like I am good enough, that I am normal, that I am the best I can be.
For those of you who may know someone who suffers through depression or someone who's struggling with depression themselves, I hope this vlog can help or even make a small impact. But I've tried to get a worldview from different people and from different backgrounds about depression and mental health. And I hope this has helped, and I will see you next week on my next vlog. Stay tuned, you guys, and if you like this channel, please don't forget to press subscribe. Warm goodbye from me. Take care, look after each other, give each other support and love and kindness. And one thing quarantine has taught us, it has taught us that life is short, life is unpredictable, and we really need to be there for each other and our loved ones. I'll see you next week. Bye.